out with this. Should expectations be reset for this team? We saw Arch Manning struggle a little bit. I think the defense played very well. I think the running game played very well. I also think the offensive line was pretty good. Gerald, what are your opinions on that?
Yeah, I'm of two minds. I think part of me wants to say that like the defense is good enough for Texas to continue to be elite, right? This is a good enough defense to keep Texas in basically every game that they're going to play this year, regardless of the level of talent, regardless of where they're going to go, because defense travels, right? Defense is going to go with you to Georgia, to Florida, to wherever you're going on the road. And so I think the defense is good enough for Texas to get it figured out. And Steve Sarkisian, unsurprisingly, showed a level of self-awareness in the post-game and was talking about how they didn't do a good job of getting Arch into rhythm. They didn't do the things that help him get comfortable. And so that combination of things makes me feel pretty confident that Texas is going to get it figured out, right? Again, an elite defense will win you 9 games at least, right? Especially with the schedule that Texas has. So really your questions are, can it win at Florida? Can it win at Georgia? Can it be OU? Can it be A&M, right? So like there are those games there that I think Texas has a lot of questions to answer still, but ultimately that defense is so good. Their ability to run the ball against Ohio State's front, which is a really good defensive front. I think those things, I think we need to back the expectations off of maybe what the offense is going to do this year just a little bit based upon what Art showed on Sunday. But again, we've got a month until Florida. We got a month until they have to go on the road again. So there's going to be more opportunities for them to get in rhythm. And if Arch does get in rhythm, we've seen how good he can be when he is. So I'm not ready to pump the brakes yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same mindset. I had 11-1. Well, we both did going into the season. Like I may reset to like 10-2, but I'm not resetting that far. Like you said, you name the 4 games that I think could be losses for Texas. At worst, in my opinion, they go 2-2 in those games, which would put us at 9-3, which would be teetering on the playoffs, which would suck because I think that's where the expectations now are for Texas. But you can easily go 3-1 in those games, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And the thing, like to me, where I will start to reset if Arch's mechanics don't get better. That's something that I just didn't understand, and that's something to me shouldn't change that much in a big environment. Yeah, you can get rattled and that can happen, but I don't understand why your mechanics would change that drastically on certain throws. Especially, let's be honest here, he had a lot of time to throw on a lot of these throws where his mechanics were bad, where for whatever reason, does he always have like, it's always up here. Now he went down here, and I don't understand the difference here. And then also you saw him throw off platform all the time. Like on that first throw, he did not have to keep running with that. He could have set his feet there and then threw the football, and he didn't do that. And I don't understand. That's actually one of the positive things I saw from Arch for Mississippi State and Louisiana Monroe that translates in games to other big games is your mechanics, and that just totally fell apart and led to a lot of easy completions that he did not get. Those layups that we talked about, those layups that everyone said, oh, those are just so easy to hit. Well, I guess they aren't, because everyone would give crap to Quinn Ewers of he'd only take the layup. He struggled with the deep ball, but Quinn Ewers was money 20 yards and in. He really was. He completed a very high percentage of his passes. And if Quinn Ewers was playing quarterback that Saturday and he just completed the pass he needed to, I think we win that game by 10 plus points, because there's a couple of those. I mean, the one that keeps coming back to me, I believe it's 3rd and 4, Ryan Wingo mesh concept or a fake mesh concept, and he is wide open, guys. Like if he catches it, that's minimum of 15 yards if Caleb Downs is able to make tackle. If he's not, it's a touchdown, and we're talking about a tie game, possibly overtime. That's one throw. There are 4 to 5 throws of that where the guy's wide open. It's going to be minimum 7-8 yards, maybe 15-20 yards, and that's a big difference in that type of game. And that was the difference between Ohio State and Texas. Both these teams did not ask their quarterback to do a lot. We only asked Arch to do a lot when we fell down 14-0 and said, hey, you're going to have to start throwing some of these seam shots. You're going to have to start taking these shots down the sideline. It's because Julian Sayin hit his layups. He was only asked to hit one big-time throw, and he didn't even make a great throw.
He underthrew it.
Yeah, exactly, by a lot. His wide receiver bailed him out. But every other throw was pretty simple, other than there was that throw and then the one in the end zone where he made a great throw. Other than that, the guy didn't make any big-time throws. I actually think explosive play rate, Tom Fornelli of Cover 3 posted this, Ohio State was in the bottom 5 in the country this week in explosive play rate. Like, we did enough literally everywhere else to win this game other than Arch Manning. And That's what I saw from my second watch as well. Like, I just think it was actually worse than what I saw live, which is hard to say, but I think that's the case.
And even on the goal line stop, right? If you look at the outside run, that was set up for Arch to go outside, where he, like, the block sealed the end and he could have gotten around the edge, didn't make the right read. We saw in the second 4th down conversion on that first drive, he made the wrong read. Instead of pulling it and tossing it to Endries, he gave it to the running back and the running back got stuffed. All of these things are fixable. All of these things are fixable. But yeah, Texas went in and lost the game, so there's no two ways around it.
No, GOJ, Texas won the box score, Ohio State won the championship moments. Yeah, 100%. We said that after the game. Like,
yeah,
that's been the issue with Texas, is these little moments, and not that you commit penalties, when you commit the penalties, when you turn, that was a 3rd and 5 that got turned into a 3rd and 10, and Arch made probably one of the 2 best throws he had all day to Parker Livingstone for the touchdown. You made that harder on yourself. We got bailed out last year by Quinn Ewers versus Arizona State from turning that from, I think it was a 3rd and 9 to a 3rd and 14. Yeah. Or 4th and 14. So that's the thing. This team needs to stop, killing themselves in these little moments that really, really matter. Honestly, can you have the penalties at another time and not when they matter more, I guess? I don't think that's possible. Just clean them up. I will say this. I do think they had a cleaner game versus Ohio State than they did early on versus Michigan last year. Michigan, we actually had a lot more penalties early on, especially Cam Williams. Other than Brandon Baker, I thought the offensive line played very well. And even in his first start, I actually thought he did a pretty good job. He didn't realize the protection on the last play of the game, and that became a gigantic play because of, Texas could have tied the game. But I don't really put a lot on him for that. It's his first game, and then he had 2 false starts. So I think he played a pretty good game. He could have played better. But honestly, other than Steve Sarkisian's first half play calling, Brandon Baker and Arch Manning, I think everything else was pretty good, honestly.
I think I'm frustrated with the wide receivers a bit. I think they didn't do enough to create separation. I think we're going to do grades, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But yeah, I mean, when you look at like things like post-game win expectancy, everything but the final score says Texas should have won this game, right? I think Ohio State had somewhere in like a 15 to 18% post-game win expectancy. Like, that's ridiculous, right? I think it was one of the lowest in the country. But when push comes to shove, Arch made a couple of bad reads. I think Sark went to the well a couple too many times. And I think part of the conversation, and I think, in the chat, GoJ or GOJ, however you want to say it, is right. I think Arch is going to be fine, right? The expectations were too high. And, we've talked about pumping the brakes for Arch. You and I have mentioned it multiple times that we also have high hopes and high expectations for him. But like, if this is any other quarterback making their first real start in a place like the Horseshoe, everybody understands the jitters. Everybody understands playing like that. And frankly, when push comes to shove, like, I think he's going to get in rhythm. And we saw that toward the end of the game. I think Sark is probably going to do a little bit more no huddle. If you look at the statistics, 105 of his passing yards came on those no huddle hurry up sets at the end of the games. Like, there is a lot of teachable stuff here. And ultimately, like we've said, more often than not, I think these teams are going to play again at the end of the year, and we'll see how it shakes out.
No, I completely agree with that, and Arch will be fine. Yeah, I agree. I think, honestly, if the mechanics just turn back to what they were last year, that the worry's over for me. Like, he missed all those throws because of the mechanics, the underneath your hip, basically, throwing of the football, the rotation. He didn't rotate either on some of these throws. He just, like, stopped and threw with his arm and shoulder, and I just don't understand that because he's never done that before. If those go back to Mississippi State, Louisiana on row, again, it's not about who you played. It's what you did when you played them mechanic-wise. Then I think we'll be fine. I completely agree. And that's the thing. Going to this game, it's still weird to me because you have these expectations in your head of, offensive line might struggle. We won't be able to run the ball because we haven't run the ball versus elite competition. Arch will play okay. He won't play great. And actually, it was the total opposite. Offensive line played well enough to win. The running game, guys, if we run the football like that versus anybody else, and Arch Manning just plays average football, we can beat every team in the country, because that was the first time versus elite competition we've been able to run the football. We couldn't run versus Ohio State last year. We couldn't run versus Georgia 2 times previous. We ran the ball very freaking well in this football game.
Yeah, I mean, Texas got what it wanted on the ground. If you had told me that Texas outgained Ohio State on the ground in this game, and that was my talking point. When in a defensive struggle, I always take the team that I think is going to run the ball better, and Texas ran the ball better. That was my 100% why I thought Texas was going to win this game, because I knew it was going to be a low-scoring defensive struggle. I always, in those times, pick the team that can run the ball better. Texas did that. If you isolate everything but the red zone scoring, you look at it like, oh, Texas should have won that game. But again, Ohio State was bigger when they needed to be. Ohio State made the plays like GOJ, GoJ, however you want to say it. Those championship moments, Carnell Tate came up big, bailed his quarterback out of a really bad throw, and that was the differentiator in the game. Arch Manning bounced multiple mesh underneath concepts to wide receivers in crucial moments, and it didn't work out for Texas. And so that, to me, again, Arch is going to be fine. I'm not selling the farm on Arch. If you put money on Arch being good, I think you're still fine.
I completely agree, and we can